time, starting the engine in 2020, prepping for our DelMarVa trip. 30 seconds. 10, 20, starting. We are going to DelMarVa. Right, Dennis?
I hope so.
Hi, Ann and Dennis here. Welcome to our GTFOplan channel. While we wait for our future boat to be built and when we retire in 2023, we are doing everything we can to prep for that moment when we start our journey to sail the world. And initially, when we decided to do this trip, we were going to help crew on a boat, but we were second string and it looked like we weren't going to do that. So we decided to check off our bucket list item of doing the DelMarVa. And if you don't know what that is, basically it's a loop consisting of the Chesapeake Bay, the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal, the Delaware Bay, and about 150 miles of ocean, and that makes a big loop. Alright, so we have this carpet that we made because our cats could not get on board with this rope that we have on the ladder. So we're going to hang this out because we know they can climb it so they can get aboard if they should fall over. Good morning.
Good morning.
Day 2 of our DelMarVa circumnavigation. Dennis is putting alcohol in our stove for some much needed coffee. What was that?
This is the other kind of alcohol we like. Cooks our food.
Yeah. We had a little bit of an issue with our alcohol stove. And now we've doused it and the boat smells.
So I thought what you do is you open up the little open flaps, right? That's where you pour the alcohol into.
Right.
Right? And then that controls the flame. But I don't know if it just splashed everywhere. And then when I lit it, you saw the big poof.
maybe leave that top one off, and then just pull the hatch over you. She's going up underneath the dinghy, but the dinghy thing up there, the forward hatch is closed. Okay.
Basically, because the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal, you are not allowed to sail, so you have to motor through all of that. Plus, you have a lot of tides, so that's one of the first things we really had to really pay attention to and figure out our departure time based on tides, so we could make it out to the Delaware Bay.
Right. That was our second night where we stayed in Chesapeake City. And as Anna was saying, we had to time our departure so that we were going with the outflow so that we could maximize our speed, because it would have been the difference of probably 3 knots versus I think we were doing like 7 or 8.
Yeah, we were getting a nice push.
Us. Yeah.
We're making really good time. It's very calm, but at least the sun is out and we're actually wearing shorts rather than fallies and wool layers, so I'll take it.
We got to the Delaware Bay, which is, even though it looks very wide on the chart, it's actually just a super narrow channel. Yeah. So again, unless you're super lucky and you have winds directly behind you, again, you have to motor, which is what we had to do.
Right, and it made for an exceptionally long day because there aren't really a whole lot of places that you can duck into along the way. So
there's nowhere to duck into on the Delaware Bay, but we could have stopped in
Cape May in New
right.
Jersey.
Adding some more fuel. Well, we got calm conditions. And these spout junks are the best. So we got a different style fuel can.
Yeah.
Check this out.
So a rotating hose, tap, and then push that lever, freeze that up, that spring up, and then, just like, most guys would, D, E, and IS.
Because we got to the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean by about, I think it was 8 p.m. that night.
Right.
So all day sailing. We should have prepped the sail plan a little bit better.
I should have known that as the experienced sailor. I should have known what we should have done in hindsight is we should have pulled out just a bit of our jib to balance our boat, because we had never truly sailed with just the mainsail.
Correct.
On Cloud Chaser.
Yeah.
So
we put 2 reefs in.
Yep.
With the mainsail.
And we set that up before it got dark. We were trying to be very cautious.
All right, so we rigged our preventer up on the other side, and we used that block down there so we can quickly release it if we needed to. You see we don't have much wind. I'm trying to do a broad reach, but not very well. There's not much out here.
Again, Memorial Weekend, you think not that cold, but when you get out in that ocean and you have a lot of wet weather, it is shockingly cold for the end of May.
Yeah, it was Memorial Day weekend, and I would say we were in our fallies probably out of the 9 days of the trip, probably like 7.
Yeah, and we're talking like wool layers. I mean, we were really layered up.
Right.
It was dark at this point, and we were getting ready to head into the ocean because we, like Dennis said, we were feeling really good. So we thought, hey, we can make it to Ocean City, which we planned to stop in the marina there.
Yeah. You had gone down below just to kind of get some things set and prepped so that you could be ready.
Right.
And so you changed in your clothes. So then Ann comes up, and then I went down below, and I was down maybe 15 minutes tops, just putting more cold weather gear on.
Well, right. But before he went down below, I mean, you could see, you know, the sky, the city line. You could see the lights.
Oh,
you
yeah, I
see
could
land.
look. Yeah, right.
Not land particularly, but the lights from the
right.
land.
We could see Lewes, Delaware, the lights, city lights. We could look behind us. You can see Cape May, because by this time it's getting pretty dark.
Yeah.
So I went down just to put some more clothes on. When I came back up, it was like pitch black. I was like, WTF. I was like, where are we? And
I felt
for me, that was just kind of a real panicky moment. Yeah, because just not being able to have those references was a little bit nerve-wracking.
Well, because we always planned to be real close, near coastal, with this trip in the ocean. Well, I thought maybe, you know, I've done lots of night navigation, and I know sometimes the angle of the boat means you can't see land. It didn't really make sense. But what was happening, and you could see on our course, we had plotted, we were using Navionics, and we had plotted our course, and we were following our course. Well, because our sails were unbalanced, we were still with mainsail only, and then the wind was coming at our side, it was really hard to control the boat, and it was like the sea was trying to pull us out into the ocean. So I think we were right on that cusp of where you could see the light from land, and that little bit that we deviated off course, then we suddenly couldn't see land.
Yeah. I mean, we had been thorough with the weather checks. It was like 15 knots sustained, gusts of 20, maybe
which
25.
We thought was totally
like,
manageable.
That's doable.
We
That's
did
why
the double reef.
Did the double reef.
Right.
But in actuality, and we looked at sea state as well. I think it said like 1 to 2 foot waves. Nothing major, but it was much worse than we expected. It was probably more 20 knots sustained, probably gusts to 30.
And I swear, right after we turned the corner, personally for me, because I have gotten seasick feeling, but I could not stop throwing up. But I was so sick at that point. Yeah. I mean, what, throwing up like every 10, 15 minutes?
So she would go down below to try to get some rest. And then at one point in time, I called her back up. And it was...
Well, no, I mostly stayed up with you. I mostly puked over the side.
Well, when you tried to go down and get some rest.
Yeah, I had to just warm up. I was cold, and you know, I knew if I closed my eyes, I could make the seasickness go away. Yeah,
and I could tell like what article of clothing, you know, she like first put on the one pair of pants on one leg, and then the next leg.
Well, because down below it was even worse. I don't even know how there was anything left in my stomach.
That was And you were purging from last week.
It was really bad, and it was really tough.
Just prior to getting to Ocean City, it's a pretty narrow channel because you're making that turn right by where the amusement park is.
Right.
And that sea state was just getting whipped up, and you know it's not the fastest engine that we have.
I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, so we got to bring the sail down.
Terrible.
And I mean, I had harness on, I'm strapped in,
tethered
in, locked in. You know, I clipped up onto the boom, and
at this point we had been up all night. Yeah. And at our age, an all-nighter is incredibly hard. It's not like in our 20s.
Yeah, and so it's windy and it's super hard to hear.
So we had a blue clutch with a black line and a black clutch with a blue line.
Yep.
Which we have since changed because that is somehow confusing.
Yeah, because if you say blue, I know it's just this one from here on out. But at the time...
Well, I said to release the main halyard.
Yeah, so I hear blue, and I release the blue clutch while I'm up top, and all of a sudden the boom just...
Because it was the main sheet, so the boom was not secured.
Yeah.
So he literally... So we have these handrails along the top. He's literally... hanging off the boat by his heels, holding on to the boom. And no, we don't have video of this, because that was the last thing on my mind. I was visioning him going overboard, not being able, I had such a hard time controlling the boat. So I was screaming, you know, hold on, don't let go, don't let go. And then it was, I swear, you were so strong, and I'm so thankful. After this was all said and done, and once we got the boat in, I just cried, because I've never been so scared that I was going to lose you ever in my life. Makes me teary now.
We finally get the mainsail down. I swear it was like a 30, 40 minute, maybe an hour effort to get into that slip.
Well, I like your comparison.
Yeah.
It's like you get home.
You've done
you're
this
at the-
long ass trip.
Yeah, you've been up all night. You get home and you're at the foot of your driveway, and you can't get in.
Yeah.
It was the hardest docking I have ever done in my life. Anyway, so we finally get in. We are bleary-eyed, frozen to the bone, needing sleep, and our bed is covered in cat mess.
Yeah.
We laid a couple towels down, and we
Yeah.
had one quilt. It was cold, and we didn't
Yeah.
have heat. So we just kind of like snuggled up in that and all the stink and just went to bed.
Yep.
And the best thing ever, thank you, Thomas, my son, we paid him, he didn't have a summer job, we paid him to drive to Ocean City and get the cats, and we will not take the cats sailing again.
So yeah, so then we come down to Chincoteague, and I don't remember, it was like 50 miles. Or
Yeah,
something.
so we had called the harbor master for safe harbor, never heard back. So we were just going to anchor outside, right
Correct.
outside, which wasn't the most protected, but for the wind direction, it seemed good enough for a night anchorage. And
yeah, well, so some up front, and
and
we're
we've
getting ready
got
to
this
anchor.
system down.
Yeah, so I let the anchor out, the rode out, and then all of a sudden it just like smacks tight up against the hull.
Yeah.
And I'm like, again, another WTF moment on this trip. And then I could let line out, but I couldn't bring it back in.
Yeah.
And so
It was-
the anchor was never set. And so then we
And
kind of
meanwhile,
started
we're
drifting.
drifting. Now, there was
Yeah.
a lot of room to drift.
A lot of room to drift.
Thankfully. Because we
Yeah.
were starting to figure, well, we have this other small anchor. You know, how could we drop that out the back to stop ourselves
Yeah.
from drifting?
Yeah.
A procedure we hadn't done before.
And so then finally it was like, I got to jump in.
Yeah, and the water temps were quite chilly.
It was like 60 degrees of water.
Underneath our boat in 62-degree waters. Woo! Go, baby, go! I know, I feel bad all bundled up.
That's a real man right there.
I know, I'll reward him, trust me.
Can you see anything?
Not on the prop.
That's a good sign.
Woo!
Fire her up then.
Not on the prop!
Is she dangling below your fin?
It's gotta be then. Maybe it wrapped itself around the fin. And it's wrapped tight around the keel, and that's as far as I could get. It's almost like I think it comes back around to the other side. So maybe it's wrapped like that around the keel.
Right now, with the way the wind was and the tide, it was reversed, and then everything was backwards.
Yeah, we spiraled around it. So it comes around the backside of the keel. I gotta get it out of the water.
How you doing?
All right.
Anyway, so they ended up taking their, fishing boat and just pirouetting the boat.
Yeah.
And sure enough,
Yeah.
because you knew which direction,
Yeah.
because he dove,
Popped right off. Yeah.
it popped right
A
off.
second dive.
And we just happened to time the tides
Yeah.
right as the tides were shifting. And even the locals, they were like,
Yeah,
yeah,
with
we've
currents.
never seen a current switch. It was like swirling.
Yeah.
So that was a lesson learned almost the hard way.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you can just pull into this happy harbor. Don't worry about it. And we were worried about the depths because we're 5.5 feet. And they said, well, no, it's 6 feet. And if you just stay to the right, you got your depths.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we just pulled up to the side dock,
Yeah.
and
That was good. Yeah.
and we were able to stay there for the night.
Yeah.
First time using our drone. So do we want to practice catching it?
No.
I know, I'm
Not yet.
scared.
So the next day, after again a nice good night's sleep,
Yeah.
we knew we had a real long sail to get up to Cape Charles
Cape Charles.
in the Chesapeake.
Yep. Finally in the Chesapeake.
So we start off, and there's sun, and we're not cold, and we don't
day.
need valleys.
Yeah.
And what was it? An hour later, bam,
Sucked
fog.
in.
Not even on the radar.
Yeah. Nothing on the weather. So we
And
just
so-
socked in, and that lasted all the way to Cape Charles.
Yep. And we, in hindsight, I didn't think about this. We should have been making more noise. We do have this old-fashioned bell we've never mounted, like a brass bell, and we should have put that on our boat so we were making noise because we don't have AIS or radar. So we were sailing blind. You're just like staring into, looking for markers. And what was that one marker you should see from 2 miles away? And we saw from 0.3 miles away. That's how poor the visibility was.
Fog was. Now, what was awesome is we had used Navionics to kind of plot our path.
Yeah.
And there's a section, it had us going right through the markers, the red markers, to go underneath the Chesapeake Bay Bridge portion. And I mean, it had us lined up perfectly. It was really cool.
Yeah, Navionics is a great app. It really was.
But it was just eerie because it was dark by this time. You're in this
so
pitch
foggy.
dark.
It was like out of a horror movie.
Yeah, and you're hearing this of the horns, for the markers.
So yeah, just go right through the middle.
Cape Charles, got there, made it. It was nice.
It was really nice.
Made the reservation ahead of time. That was really easy coming in there and even leaving. We just kind of, again, got an opportunity to work with the drone a little bit more. So that was fun.
Just left Cape Charles and we are heading towards Solomons, Maryland. We're going to get a mooring at Zanheiser's. We've been there before. And it looks like a nice, beautiful day for sailing.
Zanheiser's, it's a day sail back to Harrington Harbor North.
Well, and the next day when we went to leave, it was my birthday.
That's right.
It's my birthday.
Yeah, that's right. You were stuck trying to figure out in the lazarette.
We couldn't get our engine to start at all.
What you doing in there, birthday girl?
Trying to figure out why our starter won't work.
Boo.
We're stuck.
Yep. But we're stuck in a pretty place.
Thank you, YouTube and Google.
Yeah.
I learned how to hotwire a diesel engine.
Which is actually super easy.
It's pretty easy, yeah. But I was like, I'm going to hold this thin little wire and stick it here when all this,
kind of
600 amps of starting power. I'm like, okay, guy in the video did it.
All right, try it again.
And it was like, don't turn the engine off.
At this point, the owner for the transport called us, and he had his crew get sick.
Yeah.
So he needed us to come down to Florida.
Yeah.
So we hightailed it back to Harrington and did a really long sail.
Yep.
Brought our boat in, went home, did laundry, and the next day drove down to Florida.
Yeah. But in hindsight, it was good. I mean, yeah, there were some scary moments. Yeah, there's some WTF moments.
Right.
But just a lot of learning.
It was.
Sometimes you learn more of what not to do than what to do.
Or you learn the hard way. Fortunately, not too hard.
I know.
He's still here,
Yay.
thankfully. So, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed, maybe learned a little bit from our experience.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your comments.
We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks.
All right.